could be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to this Louie T Network exclusive. This is surprising. DeAndre Hopkins, star wide receiver formerly of the Arizona Cardinals, released today by the Arizona Cardinals. It's going to be a $22 million cap hit. So that tells you that they weren't happy about him essentially going on a promotional tour this offseason, talking about all the quarterbacks he would like to play for, all the different teams he would like to be on, looking to win a championship. Probably rubbed them the wrong way. He clearly wanted out. They clearly wanted him gone. They tried to find a trade partner, couldn't find one successfully, and now they've gotten to the point where he's better off being off their roster and taking a massive cap hit. And we've seen this in the past with teams willing to take the pain and suffering of a massive cap hit to move on from a player that they don't think is a fit for their team moving forward. And generally we see this with new, front office personnel, right? I talk about this all the time. When you get a new GM, all bets are off. Anything can happen. The new GM didn't bring DeAndre Hopkins to Arizona. That was Steve Keim, okay? They have a brand new GM in Arizona. He had nothing to do with DeAndre Hopkins being in Arizona. Hopkins clearly doesn't want to be in Arizona. So let me help you, find a new home. And they really would like to have gotten something for him. I honestly feel like there were probably deals that could have gotten done. They didn't want to get fleeced. If that is the case, and you're going to take this massive cap hit anyway, why not get something for him? You can't tell me that, and they may ultimately get a, I don't think they are even going to, because he didn't leave in free agency. I don't think they're going to get a compensatory pick. They are essentially releasing him for nothing. Why not get something? You're telling me there wasn't a second round pick being offered to you for him? Maybe, and again, you were playing hardball. You were hoping someone would step up and take him, and you were probably going to have to eat some of that salary. You're not going to have any salary restrictions next year from this deal. You'll have yourself freed. You'll be freed of any DeAndre Hopkins responsibility or obligations financially next year. So maybe, those other deals would have put you in a position where you still might have been on the hook from a cap perspective, moving forward, and you didn't want to have anything to do with him. But I just find it hard to believe that you find yourself in a position where you just move on from him and cut bait. Whatever the case may be, he's now a free agent. All of that talking he's done this offseason about what teams he would like to play for, what quarterbacks he'd love to play with. Now, he's a free agent and he can choose his next destination. I'm asking you guys out there, where do you think he ends up? We know the Chiefs were interested at one point. Are they still interested? Obviously, he would love to play with Mahomes. He wants to win. What better place to go and win than Kansas City? Buffalo was clearly one of those teams. He was playing Buffalo Soldier in his drop top. He talked about, the Bills situation being a really good, fit for him potentially. He's talked about Jalen Hurts being a quarterback he would love to play with. If you're a Washington fan, like I am personally, I don't give a shit where he ends up. He can go to Buffalo. We play Buffalo this year. I don't give a shit. All right. Don't land in this division, please. Okay. That's the only thing I'm looking for. I know my team isn't going to sign him. So I don't want him going to Dallas. I don't want him going to Philly. I don't want him going to the Giants. He won't go to the Giants. But I don't want him going to Philly in particular. I don't want him going to Dallas. Stay the hell out of my division. I don't give a shit where you go. Don't come here. And the other thing, if you're a Washington fan, is you go, we're definitely beating Arizona now. He was the one guy that I was looking at and saying he could dig in our ass week one, right? He's not there. That's definitely a dub week one. It already was a dub regardless. It's definitely a dub now with no DeAndre Hopkins on the roster as far as I'm concerned. We can't beat them with their roster the way it's set up with Colt McCoy at quarterback. We are in some trouble. So I look at it from that perspective as well. But, I see a number of teams. The Jets, don't count the Jets out. I don't know what their cap situation looks like, but you know what they're trying to do? They're building a super team over there with Aaron Rodgers. I know he would love to play with Rodgers. So don't count out a team like the Jets. I'm just thinking about all these teams that are contenders. If I'm the 49ers, and again, DeAndre Hopkins is probably looking for a more established quarterback than Trey Lance and or Brock Purdy. But I swear the 49ers could use another big-time receiver. They got a lot of good stuff. They got George Kittle. They got Deebo Samuel. They could use one more guy, right? But if I'm DeAndre Hopkins, I'm not looking to go to San Francisco. Now, he could say, hey, I'd love to stay in the division and kick Arizona's ass twice a year, but I don't think there's any ill will towards the Cardinals here. I just think he's looking for an opportunity to win a Super Bowl, be on a really good football team with a really good quarterback. If you look at his career, he's played with some really bad quarterbacks, especially in Houston. He got to Arizona. He was so happy those first couple of years playing with Kyler Murray. They made some beautiful music that one year when they started out like 8-0. But it's really not been that marriage that they thought it could be in Arizona. Now he's looking for a new home, and there are some opportunities out there for him. I don't know where he's ultimately going to end up, but I think it's in the AFC first and foremost. I think it's with one of these contending teams, whether it's the Jets, the Kansas City Chiefs, or the Buffalo Bills. I think my money's on one of those three teams as to where he ends up. I just don't hope it's the Philadelphia Eagles. I never count out Howie Roseman in these types of situations. Somehow, some way, he's able to manipulate everything and figure out a way to get it done. And so I just don't want him to end up here in this division. That's all I'm asking for. But what says you out there? Where do you think he ends up? What does this mean? The situation, how it unfolded in Arizona. You can't tell me that the Cardinals couldn't have gotten something for him. I just find it hard to believe. I'm shocked that we're here. I thought once they couldn't trade him, he was going to end up being an Arizona Cardinal for the upcoming season. I never saw this as a realistic possibility that he would get released. But I feel like the relationship got strained because he kept talking about playing for other teams other than the Arizona Cardinals. And I know there's this thing that this unwritten rule that you don't talk about other teams, and there's this tampering element, things of that nature. But that's what these podcasts have created, where people have these platforms where they can talk and say whatever they want. And, these players, there's ways you can be creative to get out of your situation if you don't want to be there. Devontae Adams had voiced his displeasure with what the Raiders were doing, and the Raiders had to come in and kind of diffuse that situation, because I still think Devontae Adams is going to ultimately be traded at the trade deadline, or after this season, he's going to want out. And you already see where it's heading, right? And so they're having to diffuse this thing already in the offseason tells you that that's not heading in the right direction. And so DeAndre Hopkins, creatively, I think by continuing to campaign for other situations, I think he ended up getting out of Arizona, which is what he ultimately wanted anyway. Couldn't find a trade partner. They released him. He's going to ultimately end up where he wants to end up. Now, let's see where that is. What says you? Leave it down in the comment section. Where does DeAndre Hopkins end up? And what's the best fit for him? Leave it down in the comment section. Can't wait to read your responses. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this Friday. It's a bombshell on a Friday. Wasn't expecting a big-time move like this to be made, but the Cardinals make it abundantly clear that if you don't want to be here, you don't have to be here. They're going to eat $22 million of dead cap to make this move in releasing him. I'm just shocked that they didn't get something done. If they knew that this was the end game, like, we don't want him on the roster, you got to get something for him. Something is better than nothing. Even if the public perception is you got taken advantage of, it's either we release him and eat $22 million, or we get a second or a third round pick for him and let the other team take, $8 to $10 million off of our books for this year. Maybe there was a bigger picture. Maybe, again, if they would have done something like that, they would have been on the hook for his salary next year, and they didn't want anything to do with his salary next year. I don't know the particulars. It just seems odd that we end up with this particular ending to this situation. And we still got another situation that's similar to this. I don't think it's going to end this way with Dalvin Cook in the Minnesota Vikings. But this just seems weird. But anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. You guys get out of here. Enjoy your weekend, Memorial Day weekend. Shout out to all the veterans out there and all the lost ones. Some gave, all gave some gave all. And that's kind of the thing that kind of plays through my mind as we hit this Memorial Day is all gave some gave all, and we honor those who unfortunately gave all on this Memorial Day weekend. So you guys have a good one. Take care, and I'll see you guys next time.
LouieTeeNetwork.